Welcome to the War Party Podcast, Episode 6, with me, your host, Chris Warren. Thank you so much for returning for our 6th installment of this wonderful podcast. You guys have been all so supportive, and we've really appreciated it over here. And by we, I mean me. I do this all myself. It's quite laborious, and it's slowly driving me insane, but I'm enjoying it, so I'm going to keep doing it as long as you guys watch. Before we get in to any of the news today, I'd like to talk about the Olympics. For those that don't know, the 2026 Winter Olympics have been taking place over the last month over in Milan, Italy. And it has been glorious for America. I delayed making this podcast today. I'm starting later in the day than I normally do because I had to watch the men's U.S. hockey team destroy the Canadian hockey team. It was such a good... Dude, America won a gold in hockey in the Winter Olympics this year. We did. As of like 2 hours ago, we did it. And a lot of people are under this impression of like, oh, well, that makes sense. We're America. I mean, the majority of the NHL, the biggest hockey franchise in the world, is in America. You guys have all the best players over there. You must win every year at the Winter Olympics. And that's not true. I looked up. We haven't won since 1980. We haven't won since 1980. And that season, we did beat Finland to win the gold. That was 46 years ago. And before we played the Finnish, though, we played the USSR, the Soviet Union team. That's how long it's been, is we've had to beat the communists to get into the gold medal match. It was so impressive, they made a movie called Miracle on Ice, which if you haven't seen it before, you should go watch. It's awesome. I watched it way too much as a kid. That's probably why I'm so pro-America now and have this flag behind me, is because as a kid, my Reagan-worshipping parents made me watch Miracle on Ice and Red Dawn. And not the bullshit remake Red Dawn that we have now. The original Red Dawn with, I think it was Charlie Sheen was in that. I believe, or maybe it was Martin. It was one of the Sheens was one of the main characters. It's about like high school kids in Colorado, I think it is. And the Soviets take over America and they're like a guerrilla group, like fighting the Soviets is like the high school football team. It's awesome. They call themselves the Wolverines. If you haven't seen that, go watch it and then go watch Miracle on Ice. And then you will like understand how hyped I am. Why I am so hyped about this hockey finals. Because America took the gold from Canada. Everyone had their money on Canada. Everyone was like, oh, Canada's going to win it. Canada's going to beat America. They're going to get a gold in ice hockey. Nuh-uh. Because our boys went in there and we decked them. And what's even better is a couple days before, the U.S. women's hockey team also won gold. And they also beat the Canadian national team to get it. So back-to-back in the course of 1 week, U.S. men's and U.S. women's hockey teams have both respectively defeated Canada to get us 2 gold medals. We won both the gold medals in hockey this year, and we beat Canada both times in the finals. And I hate Canada. I'm going to be so real. It's a personal beef for me. I have a vendetta, a grudge against Canada, because in my earlier days of content creation, I would post videos about everything. I still post videos about everything, news-related, all that stuff. And I made one video calling Canada out on its bad foreign economic policy because I stand by that, it was bad. The Canadians are really historically bad at doing financial policy and economic policy when it comes to dealing with other nations. They sign the worst deals. They make the worst trade partners. It's horrible. So I wasn't even shitting on Canada. I was shitting on their government for making a bad decision. If you really think about it, was me defending the Canadian people by being like, hey, don't let your politicians do this. It's probably really bad for you. And this was like 3 or 4 years ago, right? I don't even think the video's up. It's from way back in the Instagram archives. Maybe you can find it if you scroll way down on my page. Dude, at that time and since, I've made fun of so many countries and nationalities. It's my thing. It's what I do, right? And people have gotten upset before. They maybe sent me a mean DM or a comment. Most of the time, people just laugh it off. The Canadians were so organized and brutal in their retaliation against me that it was a little disturbing. Like, all the comments were wishing ill upon me, were wishing me my death. I got like 20 DMs, and this is when I was a much smaller content creator, right? So I didn't even really have followers. My videos didn't even get that many views back then. And I got like 20 DMs from Canadians wishing ill upon me, like wanting me to get cancer and stuff and trying to talk shit. And ever since that moment, I have hated Canada. I have hated them with all my heart. I used to view you guys as like our kind of silly kid brother up in the north. You're kind of similar to us. You think a little more of yourselves than you should, but whatever. You're ignorant. Whatever. I didn't mind. And then you guys had to go do that. And by the way, I think I've talked about it on here before. When I went to Canada last summer to go on tour, the Canadians were Canada was so weird. It felt like AI made an alternate version of America. Like if you typed into ChatGPT, hey, model me like a Midwest town using AI. That's what Canada is. It's very almost identical to America, but something's a little off. It's a little it's like an uncanny valley version of America. And also, I was up in Quebec for part of that, and they take French way too seriously. Like everyone speaks French, all the signs are in French. They would speak to me in French and then get like upset that I didn't speak French. And it's like, dude, I'm from America. You're in a country where 90% of the people here speak English anyway. Why are you mad at me that you're in the 5% of the country where you can live only speaking French and like make it work, and you're mad that I don't speak? I haven't adapted to your tiny corner of the world that's irrelevant to speak French to communicate with you, which, by the way, you're rude, so why would I want to talk to you? So I have a personal vendetta against the Canadians. They jump in my comments all the time to say mean things to me because they're holding the grudge too. It's a personal beef. And watching both the sport they're quote-unquote best at, hockey, watching them get blown the fuck out by both our men's and women's teams, on it, applaud. One of the greatest moments of my life. I enjoyed it so much, and the Canadians are seething. They're very upset. So, to both the men's and women's U.S. hockey team, I want to salute you. You guys are American heroes. You've made your country proud. You won gold for the best country on earth. And you've personally helped me settle a personal vendetta, and I appreciate that. I like to think at least one person in the locker room was sitting down thinking, these Canucks have been really rude to Chris, and he's my favorite content creator. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. I like how even in my fantasy, they've forgotten I'm a stand-up comic. That's always my insecurity, that everyone, people know me from social media, and they're not aware that I do stand-up comedy. And that ironically, this is the side gig. The stand-up comedy is like the main thing I'm focused on. I like how even in my fantasies, they don't know I'm a stand-up. We got to keep it realistic. Speaking of the Olympics, another amazing thing happened, and you've probably heard about this. Alyssa Liu, and I so hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Alyssa Liu, an American figure skater, won the gold for American figure skating for like the first time in 24 years. I think we haven't won that since 2002, if I'm not mistaken. And she won it for America. And for those that don't know, her father is a Chinese American. He was born in China, and later in his 20s, he was organizing these pro-democracy protests. And he literally got persecuted by the Communist Party of China. And when people say, like, oh, they were persecuted over there, it's like that gets thrown around a lot. People like to say that a lot about people that come from China because, we have beef with the Chinese. But no, he legitimately was persecuted by China. Like, he was trying to throw pro-democracy rallies and get the people's voices heard in China. And they were basically like, hey, come outside. We just want to talk. We just want to talk. And he's not dumb. He knew, like, oh, they're going to put me in, like, a Russian-style gulag or, like, make me disappear. I got to get the fuck out of here. And he came to where else but the greatest country on earth. He came to the United States of America, and he got his citizenship, and he built himself up, and then he now, all these years later, was in the stands watching his American-born daughter represent her country, and win the gold medal. And Alyssa is up there, wrapped in the American flag, huge smile on her face, gold medal she just won for the United States. They're raising on the podium. They're raising the American flag. Everyone in the arena singing the Star-Spangled Banner. And the camera cuts over to her father, who is there in a full Team USA like tracksuit. He's got his hands over his heart. He is singing the Star-Spangled Banner, the American national anthem, and tears are running down his face. And oh my, if that's not the American dream, if that's not one of the greatest success stories, American success stories I've ever heard, that you can flee an oppressive regime in communist China, you can come to America, you can work your ass off, build a life, and then watch your children have a much better life than was ever going to be afforded to you. And not just, you get to watch your daughter become an Olympian, to represent the country that took you in, to have that national pride, and know that you have contributed to America for everything it's done for you. That, I don't think I've ever been more jealous of anyone in my life. I'm very jealous of this man. Like, that is truly a beautiful experience. And we want to thank him, and we also want to thank Alyssa Liu for winning the gold for America. And thank you for that. And also, Alyssa's, she's adorable. She's like 20 years old. She's this young woman. And after she won the gold, like most athletes would be doing backflips, screaming, like hugging their team, whatever. Alyssa immediately notices that the person that, and I apologize, I forget this athlete's name, the Japanese figure skater who had come in third place, gotten the bronze, who I think was like 15, 16 years old, was a little girl, right? Who had just lost the Olympics. Not lost, she got bronze, but you know, everyone wants gold. It was heartbreaking for, she's a little girl. She's like 15, 16 years old. And Alyssa doesn't skip a beat. She doesn't start celebrating anything. She runs right over to that Japanese figure skater and gives her a big hug and is talking to her and hyping her up for a solid like 6-7 minutes till she gets her laughing and smiling and is basically like, hey, you won the bronze medal. You fucking nailed this. You're 15 years old. There's no reason to be sad or be ashamed. And she hyped this little girl up, and then they were both celebrating together. And what just like a sign of good character that is. That's like true sportsmanship. That's a beautiful representation of this country that was really wholesome. It gave me hope for humanity saying that even in victory, Alyssa was very gracious, and she saw an opportunity to be kind. She saw an opportunity to be kind, and she took advantage of that and went and did what she needed to do to help someone else. And that's what we should all strive to do. So that was really beautiful. Huge fan of Alyssa Liu. Great athlete, great person, a proud American, and we just want to thank you so much for that, because you warmed my heart seeing you comfort the young woman who didn't win gold. That was very noble. That was very beautiful of you. So, shouts out to all the U.S. Olympic athletes, all the teams, everyone. Guys, we crushed the Olympics this year. We nailed it. I'm proud of every single one of you. I love the Olympics mostly because it's an excuse for me to get as patriotic as fuck against every other country on earth. And it's like one of the few times where a lot of these people that maybe aren't patriotic or like for whatever loser reason, like embarrassed about America, can come together and be pro-American. And I love that. I love that a lot. So I really enjoyed the Winter Olympics. I really enjoyed U.S. men's, women's hockey, Alyssa Liu winning the figure skating. There was a lot of beautiful moments in there. So shouts out to all the Olympians. Now, while we're on the Olympics, I do have to address another point, because some Olympians do not have my respect, and I am not a fan of. And that would be Eileen Gu. And I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that, but I don't give a fuck. Because Eileen Gu is a skier, an Olympic skier from America. She's an American. Lived in America, trained in America, speaks English like any other American, no accent, nothing. She's straight up an American. And she competed as a skier in the Olympics this year, but not for Team America. She competed for Team China. And I know I'm going to sound like a boomer. I'm going to sound like Fox News, like some Fox News exaggeration or hysteria. But that shit pissed me the fuck off. Revoke her citizenship. Revoke her citizenship. Take it away. How fucking dare you? You get to be in the greatest country on earth, America. You get access to everything America's provided you, your education, your quality of life, your ability to train the skiing, the sport that you're doing. And you go over to China to compete with them? You go there to win them medals? Fuck that, dude. Fuck that. And people be like, oh, but she's ethnically Chinese. No, I don't play that like weird ethnicity shit. No, you're American. You have a U.S. passport. You're from America. I don't care what race you are. If you're American is American. All right? We're the melting pot of the world. And you're going to go over and compete for China on some weird my ethnicity shit? That's fucking lame as hell. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. I hope that everyone bullies her. I hope that when she comes back, if you see her in public, spit on the ground. Bully that bitch. How fucking dare you go compete with for China? You fucking loser. You fucking loser. I'm genuinely upset. Disgusting. Like, this is the greatest country on earth. I say all the time that the greatest gift I've ever been afforded is the privilege to have been born in America as an American. That's the greatest thing that God has ever given me. If he gives me nothing else, I have been one of the luckiest people in human history that I got to be alive in America today. And this person got that same opportunity and went running over to the filthy commies, to the Chinese, to go win them glory and their medals. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. Sorry, I got a little heated on that one. I get upset. I'm very patriotic, and I have no tolerance for anyone who isn't patriotic about this country. So, in other words, though, we were talking about Canada earlier. Let's circle back to Canada. Canada's having, like, a horrible time trying to keep its military strength up, especially now that, like many of the other NATO allies, Canada's trying to get self-reliant for their military. They're trying to break away from reliance on America, and that means they're going to have to build up their army numbers. Just know, you got to get more. If you're not relying on America, you got to get more people in your military. And they can't do it. They can't find recruits. They're desperately looking for them. And so what is being proposed, I don't think it's official yet, although knowing Canada, they'll vote it in because, morons. They're offering like a new citizenship program where you can immigrate to Canada and immediately join the military. Like, you can be a foreign national and you can join the Canadian military, and when you finish your service, they'll give you your citizenship. Basically kind of like the French Foreign Legion, which I think we've talked about on here before, except for to the regular military. And that couldn't possibly go wrong. There's no way any enemies could infiltrate your military by sending their people to go join now that foreigners can join the Canadian military. That won't backfire. That won't be bad. It reminds me of, like, back in the day, the Roman emperors used to have the Praetorian Guard, which was basically like the Roman emperor's personal mini army and bodyguard. They were more than bodyguards. There were a lot of them. They were very well equipped, but And so what they started doing, because they were worried about inside threats and conspiracies and civil wars, is they started importing Germanic barbarians to come be in the Praetorian Guard, because the logic, and it was decent logic, was that, well, they don't have any connects in Rome. They don't know anybody in Rome because we're shipping them in from, like, Bavaria. So they won't really have a network to, like, betray us or have different motivations or allegiances because they're so removed from the Roman political system. They'll just be loyal to me as the emperor who pays them. And it worked for a little bit till the Praetorian Guards realized, like, oh, hey, we're around you all the time. We are fully armored, like, giant barbarian warriors. And we'll kill you if you don't raise our pay. We'll kill you if you don't give us the land we want or the agreements we want. And so the Praetorian Guard would, like, go on to, over the generations, basically constantly extort the emperor. Or if the emperor didn't give them what they wanted, they would kill him and install a new emperor to be, like, their puppet. And I could just see, like, did Canada not read any history? Because I feel like on some level this is what's going to happen. It would be so funny if China just sent over, like, 10,000 Chinese dudes. And we're like, we're here to join the Canadian military. And Canada's like, perfect, we needed 10,000 people in our army. And then, I wonder how that's going to work out. They won't put in any bugging devices or sabotage anything or steal any military secrets. No way. Because they joined the Canadian military. Now they're instantly loyal to Canada. Like, every time I think the Canadians have done the dumbest shit I've ever seen, They top it every time, and that's why I continue to have beef with them. So, Canada, get it together, bud. In other news, the U.S. has continued to embargo Cuba, who is now collapsing. The Cuban state is collapsing because they have no oil. They have no gas or oil, so their power grid is going down. None of the cars, boats, trucks, anything to do with, the logistics of your economy are working. Because I want you to think about how, okay, so not only are you going to have trouble with electricity if you don't have fuel to your country, and not only are people not going to be able to drive to work or whatever, but the trucks that bring food to the grocery store from the harbor or from more inland where the farms are, they can't run anymore. So now the grocery store shelves are going empty. They're having this huge problem now also because the garbage trucks don't have any gas. So the garbage trucks can't run. So people have no waste disposal. So they're just piling their trash up on the street corners and the sides of buildings, and dumpsters are overflowing. And they're at a real risk of medieval era diseases coming back in Cuba because there's so much trash and clutter and human waste everywhere because of this lack of fuel, which doesn't allow them to have sanitation facilities going on, that it's going to cause a pandemic in Cuba, essentially. People are going to really start getting their health affected. They're really going to start maybe dying. So Cuba's a complete mess. And really part of that was that they were getting all of their fuel and oil from Venezuela. And when we went in and took Maduro and captured all the Venezuelan oil infrastructure, we just kind of decided to turn the tap off on Cuba. We're like, nah, you're just not going to get that anymore. You're not going to get that. And we intercepted several Venezuelan oil tankers and seized those, although that didn't make the news as much, but it did happen. And as we did this, we strangled Cuba out of any sort of fuel imports or energy imports. And this is the result. And that just goes to show you how powerful America is. And I know Cuba's not a big, super relevant country. But we just made one decision that did not affect us at all. We just went, we're going to turn off we're going to turn off fuel shipments to Cuba. And it's been a month, and their entire society is collapsing. So that's unfortunate. But at the same time, it might lead to some regime change. Just saying, I know everyone hates regime change, but they are kind of communists. They are communists. It's the government Castro installed. So who knows? God forbid a historic enemy of America faces some consequences and has a regime change. God forbid. And it is funny though, because it's all the bad guys that I grew up with as a child in the 90s were all the Cold War, the Soviet era holdovers. So the USSR collapsed, but there were still a lot of holdover countries. You had Venezuela, which was still socialist, Cuba, which was still socialist. You had North Korea, you have Russia, then Iran is kind of also in that kind of historic anti-America, American enemy class of countries, with them kicking out the Shah and being super anti-American intervention in the region. And we're watching all of them kind of get destroyed. We basically destroyed Venezuela in terms of their ability to do anything to us. Now we're destroying Cuba in their ability to do anything to us. We've destroyed Russia. It's so funny to me the Europeans are still scared of Russia. Russia couldn't take Ukraine. We're scared of them. We destroyed them with the Ukraine war in just destroying their manpower, destroying their weapon systems, their vehicles, all their supplies. They cleared out all the warehouses. They cleared out all their backstock. They got rid of everything to try to win over Ukraine. America sent a couple shipments over of high-tech weapons and supplies. And Ukraine, which before the war was the poorest country in Europe, a complete backwater with virtually no military, was able to stop Russia purely just with American intelligence support and logistical support and weapon shipments and a couple loans, which I know people complain about how much money America sent to Ukraine. Honestly, to get rid of one of our biggest enemies, Russia, for a couple $1 billion, not a single American life lost, sorry, Ukrainians, that you all had to die, I guess, but you wanted to fight that war, so we'll give you the missiles, have at it. And we basically crippled the third most powerful country in the world. Russia historically had been seen as the third after America and China, and they were very anti-America. They opposed us all the time overseas. especially in Africa. They oppose us in the Middle East. They would send Wagner into our sphere of influence to fuck shit up and then claim deniability because Wagner's a mercenary group. It's not the government, even though it was clearly taking orders from the government. They did a bunch of cyber warfare. And like, shouts out to the modern, I don't know what the modern version of the KGB is. I forget. My apologies. I always just call them the KGB. Their intelligence service, the Russian CIA, they went so hard in on controlling the internet that like most of the bots online are Russian. A lot of the accounts that cause discourse online and like divide the American people and make us hysterical and like give out fake news and like salacious stuff are Russian provocateurs or Russian-controlled opposition, which is funny. I've been accused of being controlled opposition several times, which is like, hey, if someone wants to pay me, sure, but these are just my unfiltered, dumb thoughts I have. Okay, no one's paying me to do or say any of this. I'm just choosing to think that this is actually how I think. Isn't that the sad? This is actually how you're so mad you think I'm Russian intelligence doing this on purpose to like manipulate the American people. It's like, no, dog, this is just what I actually think. So, just food for thought. By the way, the only reason the Russians attacked Ukraine at the time they did was because they had reached the zenith of their population. They looked at their population demographics, and they realized if they waited another 10, 20 years, they would actually have less fighting age men. They were at the height of their fighting age male population, so it was now or never situation. And also the fact that Putin has cancer. That's recently been reported, although it's been reported several times in the past, and he never seemed to die from it before. So I don't know if maybe he's had cancer this whole time. They've been great at treating it with like some Soviet-era tech they're hiding. Or if it's maybe he now for the first time has cancer, really is dying. Maybe it's a whole thing where he's never had cancer and this is Western propaganda. Who knows? But I think that could contribute. That at the very least, he's getting old and wants to go out on like a good legacy, secure Russia's future. Because for all Putin's faults, I do think he cares about the concept of Russia. As like an idea, at least. Maybe not the Russian people, but he cares about Russia as a concept, Russia as a nation. And so he wanted to secure Ukraine before he died, to leave his legacy and to leave Russia in a strong strategic position. And that's why they pushed into Ukraine. And unfortunately for them, great for us, it backfired because, again, we gave all the Ukrainians weapons. And to everyone's surprise, honestly kind of including our own, turns out you can take what's essentially a third world nation of Ukraine and you can pump them full of American intelligence assets and American training and American weapon systems and technology, and not even our best stuff, like our second tier stuff, because we wouldn't give them our top tier stuff, our second tier items and overstock we had, and they can defeat the third most powerful country in the world. They can defeat Russia. So, you know, again, to take Russia out for so little of an investment, I think was actually kind of genius. It was a huge neocon win. It was kind of the capstone of the Cold War to really push Russia's head in the mud one last time. Controversial opinion, I think it was worth it for us. I don't know if in the long run Ukraine will win the war, because you just look at it numbers-wise, and they both misrepresent their numbers. They both say they've killed more of the other side, and they've lost less of their side than in reality it is. So I think the real numbers for both of them are probably somewhere in between each other's reports. I don't think we'll really know the real numbers till after this whole thing's over. But you look at the numbers of just how much bigger Russia is. It's like even with Western support, which is waning for Ukraine, you see Zelensky freaking out about it every time he visits anyone. But like even just numbers of troops, like the Ukrainians are going to run out of people before the Russians do. Even if the Ukrainians kill 2 Russian soldiers for any 1 soldier they lose, it's like Russia's got more than 3 times the people they do. It's mathematically, Russia will probably win if this war continues. But even if they do take Ukraine, we've weakened them so much that they won't be a problem for us for probably the next 50 years. Europe's freaking out about it, but it's like, guys, they couldn't get you through Ukraine. They're not going to invade. You have Poland right there. Poland is terrifying. Poland is low-key, has a really strong army they've been building up before this, but then also increased that because of this. And so, yeah, if they couldn't take Ukraine, I don't think Russia's going to get through Poland, let alone then get into, like, Western Europe proper and start invading Germany and France. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't know why the Europeans are such pussies that they think that's going to happen. But yeah, I don't see that as, I see it as even if they get Eastern Ukraine, they've been so weakened that they're kind of a not problem. And it is what it is. And, you know, for what it's worth, I feel bad for the Ukrainians. They're kind of being used as a pawn in like a proxy war between East and West. But, at the end of the day, that's kind of the American MO, right? We use a third world nation to fight our proxy war against powerful enemies we don't want to go toe-to-toe with because of nukes. And then when it's over, you're kind of on your own. But at the end of the day, the Ukrainians wanted to fight. So, it's kind of a win-win. I don't know what they want from us at this point. It's like we can't perpetually support our goals would weaken the Russians. The Russians are now weaker in large part because of your efforts, Ukraine, and thank you for that. We cannot perpetually give you billions of dollars. All right, at a certain point, we got to cut our losses, and we're getting to that point. We'll probably stop supporting Ukraine officially in the next year or so. And it is what it is. And to anyone being like, oh, we have a moral duty to defend Ukraine. No, we don't. We have a moral duty to defend America. And when it served America, we supported Ukraine. It's looking like it might not serve America anymore, so we don't. Is what it is. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. But yeah, Russia is kind of losing all its allies, and a lot of the boomers in Congress and Senate are looking to settle the score, the old vendetta from the Cold War. So they're going after all these nations. They are destroying, like we said, they're destroying Cuba right now. They took out Venezuela. They destroyed Russia with the Ukraine war by funding Ukraine. They absolutely eviscerated Russia's ability to project power. Now they're coming after Iran. They're coming after Iran. There was a huge buildup around Iran last week. We have two carrier strike groups. I like to call them carrier fleets. I guess technically they're called carrier strike groups. We had two carrier strike groups. The USS Gerald Ford aircraft Nimitz-class aircraft carrier and the USS Abraham Lincoln Nimitz-class aircraft carrier both came with their entire strike group, which was like together had like 3 nuclear submarines, like 11 destroyers, tons of other smaller vehicles in terms of boats and planes and all that. And they're just sitting off the coast of Iran waiting for something to pop off. During that time, we also had like 24-hour nonstop flights of supplies and munitions to all of our bases in the Mediterranean. We sent a lot of air-to-air refuelers to Greece, Bulgaria, and Cyprus, where we have bases there, although I guess technically Cyprus, it's not our base, it's the British base, but something ridiculous, like 60% of the people deployed there are American, so technically the British own it, but they let us use it, so it's pretty much ours. I'm getting too much in the weeds. But yeah, those air-to-air refuelers really work for long-term engagement of like wartime logistics. So you'd have like a plane fly out, go do some recon, come back, get fueled in the sky, go right back out to continue that aviation supremacy. And so it really does look like we're getting ready for war with Iran. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. I know I like to be a fearmonger as much as the next guy and get everyone hyped up, but I just don't think we're going to go to war with Iran. I think realistically, we're going to try to once again work out a nuclear deal, which is so stupid because we always work these out like every 10, 20 years. We have an issue with Iran. We work out a nuclear deal. Obama did this back in the day. And what always ends up happening is nothing because they're going to continue to secretly work on a nuke. They can't really make a nuke, or maybe they don't. Honestly, it might even be that they don't even want to build a nuke. They just like to have it as leverage to negotiate, right? I think that's really what it is. Because if they actually built a nuke, they'd be in a lot of trouble. Like, people would actually come after them. And if they're not building a nuke, well, then they have no leverage as the smaller, weaker country to negotiate with America or any of the other of the big dogs. So I don't think we'll go to war with them. At worst, we'll probably do another bombing campaign like when Israel and Iran had that little 3-day spat where Israel basically destroyed all of Iranian high command. And I think the new Iranian high command is pretty aware of what happened last time, so they're a little scared. And people are asking, like, why are we going to Iran? Why are we going to go put boots on the ground? We're not going to put boots on the ground. We will maybe bomb them. We're not going to go invade them. I think on some level we're trying to push for a regime change, which that one could happen. The Iranian people are pretty unhappy with the regime. To be fair, it's like hard to tell what's propaganda and what's not propaganda coming out of there. So who knows how truly dissatisfied the people are, or if it's a small minority that's very vocal. How much control the Iranian government really has versus how much they don't, how many atrocities they've done versus how much is, kind of fake news. It's hard to tell right now. It's kind of the fog of war. But really what's happening is that the American people have woken up to the fact that Israel has way too much control over our politicians and our government, and we don't like it. And so we're being very vocal about how we want to stop doing that, essentially. And the boomers are dying off, and they grew up in that era where it was just unquestioned support for Israel. I don't even really blame them. That's just that's what you were taught growing up. So that's what they believed, right? And then now with the internet, we have a lot more information. We're kind of like, I'm not so sure this is something we want to, have our sign of approval on. And the Israelis know this, and they are terrified because they really only exist out there because of American technology, American weapons shipments, and American support. The only reason Israel is able to exist the way it does is because everyone kind of knows if any country gets too close to really genuinely harming Israel in a meaningful way, that America will come send air support, and you will have a problem with America, and that's something people don't want to deal with. We're the most powerful military in the world, so it keeps people at arm's distance, really only able to do these pot shots at Israel. And Israel knows that in an election cycle or two, all the boomers will phase out of voting. It'll be millennials and Gen Z, and we're not going to vote for pro-Israeli candidates. And so you're going to see, it won't be overnight, but you'll see slowly over time, support for things like Israel and tolerance of things like AIPAC, which is a foreign lobbying agency. It's crazy they're allowed to operate in America. It's ridiculous. That's all going to wane. And support for Israel is going to wane in a meaningful way. Not because right now it's pretty much gone in America, but you just hear people shouting about it and being mad about them, right? But they're still getting all their money. They're still getting all the U.S. security assurances. They're still getting all the military aid. So it does they're basically America can be as mad as they want. It doesn't affect us. But really in the next decade, they're going to see the meaningful stuff go away. The weapons, the money, the protection like we talked about. And so they're freaking out because they know they can't really survive in a post-America support world. So they're doing this Hail Mary right now to, okay, we have destroyed our optics in the West. No one in America or Europe in the next 10 years when kind of the old guard of politicians phases out, none of the new guard is going to support us. The people over there won't stand for it. So we have already destroyed our reputation. We can't recover PR. So we're just going to double down, and we got to try to take out all of our enemies in the next little segment here, because we need to prepare to live in a post-American supported world. So they're going to try to get rid of Iran. They're going to try to goad America into essentially carpet bombing Iran or bombing its infrastructure and military capabilities so far back that it buys Israel 20, 30 years of not having to worry about Iran, because that's their biggest security concern at the moment right there is Iran. Because Iran funds Hezbollah, Iran funds the Houthis, Iran funds the PLA, they fund Hamas. So if they can take out Iran, that kind of causes a cascade effect that gets rid of funding for all their other enemies. It takes out their biggest enemy, which is Iran, as a direct military threat, as a country that would go to war with them. And so then Israel can buy itself 20, 30 years of security post losing American support, and then try to figure it out from there. So that's what's going on with there. That's why the Israelis are trying to goad us into going to war with Iran. Trump's obviously sending all the stuff over there because he's in the fucking Epstein files and he doesn't want to get caught for it. And you might ask, Chris, how are those two things connected? I got a little bit of trouble on social media in one of my short form videos for implying this, but I'll just come out and say it. Anyone who's been reading about Epstein over the last couple years, especially with the most recent drops where they make it abundantly clear, Epstein was a Mossad asset. He was working with Mossad. The whole Epstein's Island and child trafficking ring was all a Mossad operation. It was a Mossad-approved operation to compromise U.S. politicians and influential finance people in the U.S. so that they could secure American support for Israel for the next 50 years. That was the goal. They're if we can compromise enough people in Congress and Senate and all these things, then they will always vote, whether they're Democrat or Republican, they will always vote for any bill that supports Israel, and they will always vote against any bill that doesn't support Israel. And this is how we secure Israel's future, by securing our connection to America. Because again, they only are able to function out there because of their association with America. And it's just like, it's so obvious that he was Mossad connected and that this was all, at the very least, Mossad approved, if not like directly organized by Mossad to compromise influential Americans and other countries as well, like, to secure European support. And I think it's so funny that now people are like, oh, actually, that's anti-Semitic to say. No, it's not. It's just a fact. Dude, I'm Jewish. I'm not saying anything anti-Semitic here. Me questioning what Israel or Mossad's doing has nothing to do with my Judaism. They don't, by the way, most of like the most radical Zionists aren't religious Jews. They're on some weird ethno-state shit where it's about like their Jewish genetics. They need a homeland for the Jewish people. And they make fun of me for being religiously Jewish. So it's like, fuck them. Why do I have to defend them? Why is that? Why is you're playing stupid games in the Middle East and you're winning stupid fucking prizes? Why is that my problem? I don't understand. Oh, because we're both Jewish? Okay. What is that? I don't understand how that makes it my problem. You're not American. And I don't believe in dual citizenship. So if you have dual citizenship with any country, Israel included, I view you as the other country. Because I don't do dual loyalty. You're American or you're not. If it's I'm American and I have a Canadian passport. You're Canadian as far as I'm concerned. Oh, I'm American, but I also have an Israeli passport. You're Israeli as far as I'm concerned. So, yes, Epstein was a Mossad plot to compromise American politicians, to control American foreign policy, to favor Israel, so that Israel could secure its place in the Middle East. And yeah, and Trump was compromised in this operation, allegedly. And you see it throughout the fight. Like, they have so many pictures together. They have all this thing. Like, it's just anyone who's like, no, Trump wasn't involved in Epstein. And, like, that's not, like, it's just like you are so MAGA brained out. And then that's the funny, then they'll call me, like, some woke liberal for saying that. It's like, I don't think you see my opinion on domestic policy. I would not call myself a liberal. That's kind of crazy. That's your dichotomies. You're either with Trump or you're some pussy liberal. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so Yahoo is bending his Epstein leverage over Trump to try to destroy Iran, to secure Israel's power in the region before Americans pull out of that relationship in the next 10 years. So that's what's going on over there. Also, Yahoo wants to keep the war going because, for those that don't know, like, he goes to jail when the war's over. He goes to jail because there were massive protests. People don't remember this. Before everything happened with the Hamas attack on Israel back a couple years ago, there were massive protests in the streets calling for Netanyahu's head, essentially. And what happened is then the war started because he was accused of all this corruption, which he probably did. Allegedly, he probably did all the corruption. He was very unpopular. And then the war happens, and he pulls this move where he's like, oh, I can't stand trial right now because I'm a wartime prime minister, and I won't be able to focus on giving myself a fair defense, focus on my defense for court, because I'm so busy running the war effort and keeping Israel safe. So I can't stand trial till like after the war. And the courts are like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And so he is incentivized to perpetually continue the war so he personally doesn't go to jail, even regardless of Israel's best interest or their plan for the region. For himself, he doesn't want to go to jail. And that's also another factor of why, hey, if we could get something to pop off boots on the ground in Iran, that might buy me another 4 or 5 years to figure out how I'm going to get out of these corruption charges. So that's it's all connected. It's all corruption. It's interesting, but basically what's going on in the Middle East is we're flexing on Iran because Israel told us to, or more accurately told Trump to. Yahoo told Trump to. Isn't that the funniest thing is, like, in all these situations, Iran, America, Israel, it's all these, like, really corrupt, fucked up dudes at the top, whether it's Yahoo or Trump or the Ayatollah, that no one in any three of those countries like. Like, no, the Iranians don't seem to like the Ayatollah. Most Americans don't seem to like Trump. Most Israelis, despite what the media will tell you, don't seem to like Netanyahu. So it's like these three guys are basically trying to lead us to war with one another, but we don't like any of them. And it doesn't benefit any of us. It benefits them for their own personal reasons. You know, it gets Trump out of his Epstein predicament, or at least pushes it down the road. It gets Yahoo out of corruption charges, going to jail, and it gets the Ayatollah an external threat to reshift the anger in Iran away from protesting his regime and trying to depose him and towards like, hey guys, we all got to come together and fight this war against the Israelis and Americans that are coming. And so it's like, great, we're going to go to war to benefit three dudes that everyone fucking hates. That's awesome. That being said, I would love to see regime change in Iran. I fucking hate Iran. I'm old school. They suck. I'm not giving them any passes. And here's the thing I see online is like all these retards supporting Iran simply because Iran is against Israel. Just because Israel is a bad guy and Iran is against that bad guy doesn't make Iran a good guy. Iran also fucking sucks. Spoiler alert, most other countries in the world that aren't America kind of fucking suck. So I would like to see Iran kind of demolished in that way and take at least that regime taken out and have their power neutered in the region. I think that would be good. And here's where everyone comes and calls me, a pro-Israeli bot or something, even though I just spent the last 15 minutes talking shit about Israel and how frustrated I am with them and how much damage they've done to the American empire. But that won't stop. You want to bomb Iran and the Israelis want to bomb Iran. So that must mean you're pro-Israel. It's like, every once in a while, mutual interests align. All right, it happens all over. I don't know what you want from me. Yes, I think it would be good if we could get the Iranian regime out of there. Does that also benefit Israel? Yes. Is that why I think we should do it? No, I think we should do it because it solidifies American power in the region and gets rid of a historic anti-American bad actor on the global stage. So they fund a lot of terrorism, not just against Israel, against America. So yes, I think deposing the Iranian regime would be good for Americans. I do. Now, if we have to go on a boots-on-the-ground war, not so much. If we can drop a couple bombs and blow up the high command and install someone new without losing any American troops, that would be awesome. I'm not against that at all. I don't know why anyone would be. Oh, it's bad to bomb the Iranian. Fuck them. I don't okay. So, and I know we were just talking about the Epstein files. It's very funny that Trump's response to all this was he announced the other day, hey, by the way, I'm releasing the UFO files. Complete. No particular reason. No reason at all. Nothing to do with the other files. Separate of that, I'm just choosing out of the goodness of my heart to inform the American people about the UFO files, which, hey, this is clearly a distraction tactic from the Epstein files, as to some extent what we just talked about with the potential Iran situation might also be. Although I do think that's just geopolitical maneuvering. But here's the thing. Yes, it's a distraction from the Epstein files. Will it work on me? Probably. I hate to admit that. If you get those UFO files to me, I'm spending the next 3 months, I'm only reading those. I'm not reading anything else. I'm going to put down the Epstein files to pick up another day. And Trump, you've bought at least 3 months of me not talking about Epstein and only talking about UFOs. The rest of you, if that happens, the rest of you are going to have to stay on the Epstein files. I'm going to need you out there. I'm going to need you to pick up the slack for where I'm slacking and drive for justice on the Epstein files. But I'm going to be too enamored with what's going on with UFOs. And wouldn't that be funny if they were connected? Wouldn't that be so funny if it ended up being like, yeah, Epstein was an alien. That's why he was doing all that weird psychogenetic engineering shit he was doing. Which, for those that don't know, Epstein wasn't just a horrible abuser and trafficker of children. He was also into weird race science. He was doing 1800s phrenology to try to breed a super race of Jews. It was very odd. It was a very there's so much about it. A lot of it conflicts each other. Even his own words say conflicting things logically, they don't make sense. But he was into this weird bioengineering concept that through his DNA, He could manipulate things with like a more advanced version of like some sort of CRISPR technology and build like a super mega race of Jews. And like when you put all that out there, you kind of start to see like he might have been an alien. Like here's what I'm not saying Jeffrey Epstein's an alien, but if it came out with irrefutable proof that he was, I wouldn't be ultra shocked. I'd be like, oh, that kind of makes sense actually. Like if he was a gray, dude, one of the little grays, and that's why he was doing all this shit, dissecting humans and shit. That would make sense. I'd believe that. I'd believe that if that happened. That would be a funny way they could. Not really funny because the whole situation's horrible, but that'd be interesting if they connected, you know? That makes some sense to me. By the way, I know we keep talking about Epstein, but Lex Wexner, who was clearly Epstein's handler, and Epstein wasn't a Mossad agent. I believe he was a Mossad asset, right? And there is a bit of a difference in those for those that don't know. Like an agent is someone that is trained by that organization, is on the payroll for that organization, and like has a mission, answers directly to the command structure of that, in this case, Mossad, right? So that'd be like a Mossad agent. Now, the agent would go out there and try to compromise or otherwise bring people over to Mossad's larger plan, and they don't necessarily, and make them an asset. That would make them an asset. So the asset usually doesn't know fully what the plan is. Sometimes they do. I think Epstein knew. But he was flipped by Mossad through Lex Wexner, who is also not a Mossad agent, but a Mossad asset. Again, I know it's like semantics, but I do think words are important. And Lex Wexner, who gave Epstein his like start with all the money to get into money laundering and finance, then go buy the island and do all that stuff. It's just like, I can't get into it here. Other people have already covered it. You should go listen to them. I'm sure they did a much thorough job than I'm going to do if I try to squeeze it in 5 minutes here. But Lex Wexner, who is clearly a Mossad asset, clearly directly associated with Epstein, was getting questioned the other day. And he gives like some long, like old man, dementia-ridden like answer where he's like just volunteering information that's like very incriminating that he doesn't even have to do, doesn't even really answer the question that the person asked him. And his lawyer pulls him aside and goes, hey, if you answer one more question with more than 5 words, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And Lex just kind of laughs it off and is like, oh, okay, I'm in danger. And it's like, I thought it was fake. The first time I saw it, I'm like, that's gotta be AI or a meme. And I looked it up and nope, it's apparently it's real. And people think that this is like, oh, this is like that lawyer is like his Mossad handler and is trying to like stop him from giving away Mossad secrets. I honestly, that'd be interesting. I don't think that's what it is. I think this lawyer is just dealing with this old retarded guy that basically has dementia, and he is trying to do his job of get this guy off scot-free, and the dude just won't shut the fuck up. He won't stop incriminating himself. So he's like, bro, just be quiet for the next 20 minutes, and I can get you off with no jail time. And then the guy, like you know when you're about to get out of something, and you're with your friend, and they just won't shut the fuck up, and they talk you both into being in trouble. Maybe this experience only, maybe not all you can relate to. Maybe it's something that I've had. Because I used to hang out with a lot of junkies and alcoholics, because I also was one, to be fair, but they were morons. And like so many times, we would get into like bad situations, and we would almost have talked our way out of it. And then they just had to keep talking and like fucked us both over. And I feel like I do have some empathy for the lawyer who's like, man, I am just trying to do my job and you are making it so much more difficult. You're making my fucking job so much more difficult. Please stop incriminating, motherfucker. It's like when you work in a restaurant and someone comes and orders like 20 dishes 5 minutes before you close. You're just like, motherfucker. Now I gotta make chicken Slovakia in the back. Stay an hour late. I also want to take a moment to switch gears a little bit with North Korea, because Kim Jong-un, the fearless leader of the people, also a sociopathic dictator who puts people in concentration camps and shoots them out of cannons. But he's the leader of the People's Republic of North Korea, and he recently announced his successor, and it's his daughter. I think her name's Kim Yu Lee. Kim Yu Ah. Fuck, I should have written it down. I'm sorry. But He announced his daughter, who I think is like 14 years old, is the next in succession for the Kim line of ruling North Korea. And it kind of took everyone by surprise because it's like this authoritative, like regressive dictatorship. And they picked a female leader. Depending when Kim dies and she takes control, like North Korea could have a female leader before America, which I think is very funny. All right, I'll be honest. That's pretty funny that the repressive communist dictatorship was able to get a female leader before the democratically elected American government. Like, can you imagine how pissed like Kamala and Hillary are right now? Like, motherfucker, really? Really? Like, you know, there's something very funny about that. But it's just like, it just kind of seems like American people will not vote for a woman. I'm just going to be real. And you could say whether that's good or bad. I'm not making a judgment call on that. It just seems to be like that we won't do it. Like, McCain getting Palin attached to him ruined his campaign. Like, it was over. Granted, Palin was also, she seemed like a nice lady, but she was also like borderline retarded. So it's like, I don't know what they expected to happen there. And also, I don't think anyone was beating Obama. Like, McCain was a great candidate. I actually really liked him. He was a big Jones Act guy, which, as you can tell by my hat, I'm very pro Jones Act. But it's just, you know, and then you have Hillary, who, listen, low-key, Hillary was kind of my girl, dude. She was so pro-war. She was so pro-projection of American power overseas. Like, she basically personally shot Gaddafi in the head. Like, she did actually. But she basically made Libya happen with American support. People are like, oh, America wasn't really that involved in Libya. First of all, for those that don't know, we bombed the shit out of them when that was happening. But also, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere, this militant rebel group rises up against Gaddafi, and normally in the Middle East, like, you'll have civil wars for like 10, 20 years. They won in like a couple months, and they seemed a little too well-equipped and a little too well-trained. A little too much trigger discipline for a civilian militia overthrowing Gaddafi, you know what I'm saying? A little interesting. So I do think that it was the CIA or another intelligence, American intelligence asset, training those guys to overthrow Gaddafi, and I am pretty convinced it was Hillary's, like, Hillary was in charge of that project. Like, she didn't pick the details, but she's the one that got them the funding to get that done. And say what you want about Hillary, that's badass, dude. Fuck Gaddafi. That was great. You know, anytime America overthrows a government, I think that's awesome. I love doing that. That's kind of our classic pastime. But yeah, like, Hillary couldn't get elected, and she was kind of like an old school neocon war hawk. Like, she kind of ruled. She did, as much as people hate, and Trump did dunk on her a bunch. He did. He was funny. He got her, and she was a very unlikable lizard person. But in terms of, like, foreign policy, oh my God, we would rule half the world if she had won press. She would have been like Emperor Palpatine. Fucking, we would have, China would be a nuclear crater, and I'm kind of for that. So, sorry, Hillary, though, it wasn't your time, because it's time for North Korea to have a lady dictator. And that's nice. We haven't had many lady dictators in history. Actually, you know, I'm trying to think, because I'm pretty well educated on dictators. It's a fascination of mine. I mean, I guess there's that one in Angola that's not, like, officially a dictator, but she owns, like, half the country's, like, economy through her corporations. I don't think she's, like, officially in charge. I forget her name. I should have done, that was just a thought that came to me. I didn't do research for that. But yeah, I think this might be, like, our first, like, hardcore, real female dictator in the modern era. And that's, so you know what? Congratulations to you, young lady. You're going to make a fine dictator one day. And your dad is clearly very proud of you, because he went against a lot of common sentiment in the Korean populace that maybe women shouldn't be in charge. He said, you know what? Fuck you. I might be a ruthless, evil dictator that puts people in concentration camps. But God damn it, I'm not a sexist. And I love my daughter, and she's going to be the leader next. And I think that's pretty cool. So, you know, rare Kim W. Rare Kim Jong-un W. Fighting sexism. We love that. We love that. Give it up for the ladies. Have had a great episode. You know, they won figure skating, they won hockey, they won dictatorship. I mean, ladies, this might be the feminist episode, or as feminist as it gets on this channel. And kind of everything we've talked about here brings me to our stock tips for the week. And guys, I don't really have any deep insights this one. And I try to at least come up with one stock tip a week, but I only want to recommend to you guys things that I really... again, this is a comedy bit, so this is all a bit. None of it's real. I'm not a licensed fiduciary. None of this is real financial advice. Whatever you do with this is your business. But as a bit, I really only try to give stock advice that I believe in, that I personally invest in. And, I focus on the military-industrial complex, and quite frankly, some weeks there aren't good picks. And I don't want to, scrape the bottom of the barrel and go, frantically Google things to try to come up with something that might, at least on paper, look like a good investment, because a lot of you guys actually take the investments, and I'm very flattered by that, and a lot of you have done well with that. But part of why you've done well with that is because I only give you ones that I feel are a pretty sure thing. Nothing's sure in stocks, and I've definitely made some bad calls in the past. But, in general, I tend to bank on things that seem reliable. And right now, there's nothing super reliable that stands out to me that's unique and interesting that I think is worth sharing. I mean, with the buildup in Iran, you might see a bump up in the classics like Halliburton, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, L3 Harris, and Raytheon. I know they're called RTX now, but I don't change. I'm not good with change, so I still call them Raytheon. You'll probably see a bulk up in that, because if we're willing to do this level of buildup in Iran, we're probably going to be more willing to flex our military around the world. More, or European allies, through kind of the breakdown of NATO, have become less reliable proxies. So we'll have to kind of fill that gap for ourselves, and that will probably lead to more just general spending of U.S. military funds. And those are kind of like the ones I just mentioned are kind of our go-tos. So Boeing as well, as it won a bunch of contracts. We kind of talked about that one of the first episodes of the pod. But yeah, I don't really have any hot takes for stocks this week, but that in general, I would say kind of the classic U.S. military legacy, military-industrial complex stocks are probably going to continue to do well. They definitely won't go down, I don't think, at least not. They might dip 1% or 2% month to month and go back up. That's how stocks work. But I see them going up or staying steady. But yeah, no interesting stock stuff. I'm sorry. I don't want to lie to you and make stuff up to continue having this segment. And hopefully next week I'll have something interesting. But yeah, if there's not a good pick, I'm not going to tell you to just make a pick to make a pick. Again, U.S. military industrial's looking strong, so you could go with the classics, but I don't think they're going to have a huge jump up or anything. Yeah, I don't think there's any hot picks this week for stocks, so I do apologize to those that we're looking forward to that. But I'm never going to give you bad advice just to give you advice. I'll be honest with you, and to be honest with you right now, I don't see anything that jumps out at me. If someone does see something that I've missed this week, because granted, tons of stuff's happened in the world, I might have missed something or underestimated something, feel free to leave it in the comments for others. That's on you if you want to give that advice. That's on them for following it. I'm not endorsing anything anyone puts in the comments. But yeah, that's where we're at with stocks. Lastly, before we go, I'd like to leave you with a great segment, because I was on Steam the other day. And I went to Steam, and I saw they have a new sale, a horse-based sale for horse games. And you got a lot of, weird, fucking cheap, probably Indian-made, stolen asset games about ponies and shit that are, targeted at tricking kids into buying them. But then I noticed in the banner, there was a horse, and I'll put it up. Here's the banner right here. There was a chestnut horse with a flower on their head. And that looked a little familiar. And then I went online and I found out that was a tribute to Haru Urara. Haru Urara, which is the basis for one of my favorite characters in one of my legit favorite anime and one of my favorite video games, Umamusume Pretty Derby, a show and game where real-life Japanese racehorses are represented as anime girls that run races, and it's great. It's so wholesome. It's so nice. I've talked about it before on the podcast. I love that whole franchise. It makes me really happy. And the game's fun, too. The game kind of almost works like a slot machine because it's all odds-based and stuff, and it hits that part of my brain like gambling did, but I kind of had a gambling problem, so I can't do that anymore. But I can still play Umamusume, so it scratches that itch. And it's wholesome and sweet and fills me with joy and positivity that life's going to be okay. And Haru was kind of given a little tribute, because for those that don't know, Haru, the real horse that Haru was based off of, did die last year, and I was very sad about it. I made a video about it. Shame. But Haru raced a bunch of, she was, sorry, I'm getting, it's so gay, I'm getting actually emotional about this. So, Haru Urara was a racehorse in Japan that lost every race that they ran in. They lost over 100 races. There's a great documentary, short, like it's like a 30-minute documentary. It's called like The Shining Star of Losers, I believe. It's a Japanese documentary. It's very good. You can find it for free online. It's out there. I just watched it on a video site. I don't know. I don't think I'm allowed to say. I might get in trouble. But like, yeah, if you want to look for The Shining Star of Losers, you can find it. You can watch it. And it was a great documentary about her, the real horse, that is. And like, Haru inspired a whole region of Japan because she would race and lose every time, and people felt a connection to that feeling like you could never get ahead in life, and that there was dignity in not always coming first, and that it wasn't even about winning, right? Because it wasn't like she raced and then finally won. You know, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like, oh, you keep trying and then you overcome and you win. It's like, no, she raced all the time. She never won. She fucking lost. But it was about kind of the dignity of just pursuing something and doing it for the sake of doing it. And I know it's a horse, and they weren't thinking that. They were just running because they're a stupid fucking horse. But, like, the story we make as people around things are sometimes more important than the reality. You know, the story we tell ourselves. And Haru's story really got me. I mean, there's this beautiful part in the documentary where Haru, like, they give her the best jockey in Japan to try to win her race before she retires, and it looks like she's going to win, and then she loses, and they do a victory lap, and like, people in the audience are giving her a standing ovation. They're crying and they're bowing, and they just have like this, you would have thought Haru won with how much people gave positivity to her. And so that was really nice to see. I was really sad when Haru died. I actually cried. I was kind of inconsolable. A friend called me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Haru died." And they're like, "Who's that?" And I explained, and they're like, "Dude, you're a 31-year-old man. Why are you crying about a Japanese racehorse? That's the basis for an anime you like." And I'm like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, I struggled that day. I'm an emotional guy. What can I do? But that also brings me, I've gotten several DMs and comments asking, for my rankings of the Umamusume, the characters, the Umas, the horse girls in Umamusume Pretty Derby franchise. And I can't go through all of them because that would be a whole video. There's hundreds of them, right? But I'll give you the top 5. How about that fair? I'll give you the top 5. I'll say Haru, and in no particular order because I don't want to order them. They'll just be top 5. Obviously, Haru is up there. Never give up. Always be positive. Is a great life lesson. Also, the character's just adorable in the anime. She's just a little girl with pink hair that's always like smiling and trying to support her friends and be positive. And she hangs out with like the negative horse Rice Shower and kind of like always tries to build her up and never gives up on her. It's really quite beautiful. So Haru, obviously, GOAT. Second, we're not second. They're all, again, we're not doing like ranked, but like the second one in the top 5 in no particular order. I'm going to get shit for this because it's a real normcore answer. Gold Ship. Gold Ship's awesome. And I know everyone's like, oh, that's the Reddit answer. That's like for non-fans. Non-fans like her from the memes. Yeah, the reason she's so popular is because she's awesome. Sometimes things are popular because they're good. We don't always have to be contrarian hipsters. Gold Ship is funny. She's a great comic relief in the show. She's interesting and fun. She's got her little Rubik's Cube she's always keeping. When she does go into serious moments, it hits that much harder. Cool character design. Gold Ship's awesome. So get out of here with that whole, that's it's just like the Reddit answer. It's like, yeah, well, okay, I guess Reddit was right on this one. I don't like Reddit, but like, I guess they were right on this one. Gold Ship rules. Next, I would say, Oguri Cap. And this one, come on, this has got to be in everyone's top 5. Oguri Cap fucking rules. She's the GOAT. Cinderella Grey, which is her own spin-off show. It's like a prequel to Umamusume Pretty Derby. Is so good. It's so good. Like, Umamusume Pretty Derby is like a fun show, but it's kind of silly. It's kind of like, I can admit it's not that good. I just enjoy it. You know, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure, like junk food. Cinderella Grey is a cinematic masterpiece. It's honestly fantastic. It's very emotional. It gets very serious at times. It tackles a lot of concepts of overcoming adversity and like how to be a good friend in like a meaningful way, not in, And it's so good. Oguri Cap's the star. She rules. She's kind of autistic for sure, and I think that's nice to get some female autism representation in anime or just in general. This is literally the background of my monitor. So when I'm editing this podcast, when I close Adobe, that's what comes up. And you can make fun of me for that if you want, but when I see that, I'm reminded I got to keep going like Oguri Cap, dude. Next, Taki Shuttle. I know it's probably pronounced Taiki Shuttle, whatever. I mispronounce everything. I speak with an American accent. Taki Shuttle rules. She's the American Umamusume. She's an exchange student. She's dressed like a Wild West sheriff. She actually carries a gun, like that's canonically part of her character in the anime and the game, is she has like a Wild West six-shooter revolver. Super positive. It really, the personal attachment to that character is when I was first playing Umamusume Pretty Derby, which is how I got into the whole franchise, I would lose every race, as you're supposed to, because it's new, and I couldn't win a career to save my life, and I unlocked Taiki Shuttle. She was like the first 3-star horse that I pulled on a random pull, and I was able to win my first career as Taiki Shuttle, and that, like, so ever since I've been like, that's the best horse. That's the horse I won my first game, my first run through with. She's American. She's cowboy themed. Like, Taiki Shuttle's awesome. She deserves more screen time in the show. She's in like an episode here or there. She's not really a main character, but she's in the background. She deserves more attention. And lastly, Meshio Dodo. And I know I pronounced that name wrong too. I know how to pronounce it correctly. That's how I read it out loud the first time I read it, and it locked in my brain, and so now I'm going to say it every time. I don't care that I know the proper pronunciation. It's not how my brain works. So Meshio Dodo is awesome. She's like the nervous social anxiety horse, and she's just always kind of like having a panic attack and wants everyone to be happy and like wants to support people, and she's just such a sweetheart. She's such a sweetheart. She's so good to her friend TMO Opera. She's so good to the other horses. Her and Taiki Shuttle in like an episode kind of develop a nice little like bromance friendship, which I thought was a nice aside. The real life horse is like friends with all the barn cats. They sit on his head and his back and they're friends. And I love when animals from different species are friends. So yeah, Dodo, the GOAT. Love Dodo. And also honorable mention, Dadiku Helios is great. That's the Gen Z Uma that like does raps and goes, way! That's probably where you know her from. She's awesome. Honorable mention. And then Matterfunkentehausen. I can't pronounce her German name. We all call her Mambo. Mambo's awesome. She's a sweetheart. She's always getting accidentally injured. It's fun to have like a German-themed horse in the middle of this like crazy anime. So yeah, I like Mambo a lot too. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. I honestly love all the Umas. I could go here all day and give everyone an honorable mention. There's not a character I don't like or who I don't think has like an important lesson to teach the audience about the human condition. And you're gonna be like, oh, Umamusume is not that deep. It is that deep. When you're a really depressed, mentally ill person like myself watching that anime, it gets deep. You can project meaning onto things. And that's what I choose to do, and I will not be corrected. That show is deeply impactful and meaningful in a very positive way. And so I thought it was very nice of Steam to give the tribute to Haru, because we do miss Haru. And, you know, I always like to remind myself every day, Haru never gave up, so I'm never going to give up. Can't give up. Haru wouldn't. What would I say to little Haru, my little horse girl daughter who looks up to me, you know, to set a good example? What, I'm going to give up, be a quitter? Nah, dude, we keep going. We power through, because that's what Haru would want. Well, guys, that's been another riveting episode of The War Party with your host, me, Chris Warren. You can find me at Chris Warren Comedy on Instagram and TikTok. Feel free to DM me on Instagram if you have any ideas for the shows. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you want to hear about, anything you want to change. If you just liked it, it helps in the algorithm. It helps with engagement. So please just, do all that. It helps me out. Love making this podcast, going to continue to make this podcast, but this week on Wednesday, if you're in Connecticut, I will be in New Haven at Cafe 9. I'll be doing a show there with another comic friend of mine, Mustafa Musa, who's one of my absolute favorite people to work with, a hilarious comic, good friend of mine. We started comedy together. So that'll be a great show. If you want to come out for that, please do. No pressure, though. And yeah, we'll be back here next week, same time, same place, Mondays, 6 a.m., Spotify, YouTube. I'm going to try to get it on Apple Music, but I've been, quite frankly, just haven't gotten around to it. I'm not going to make excuses. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I'll try to get around to it this week. And until next time, remember, guys, wherever there's a war, there's also profit.